Hey everybody, what's going on? Angry Larry here, and I'm joined by Two Gamers, One Nerd, James, JSR, whatever you know him by. How you doing, James?
I'm good, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Sorry for the last second changes, but computers suck. But it
Man,
shouldn't.
Windows 10.
Yeah, Windows 10 is not nice to anybody sometimes.
Windows 10 is cancer. Oh my God. All I had open was a browser window, live split, Discord, and OBS, and it decided to freeze. Angry Larry saved my butt. Sorry, I forgot we're live. And
sorry, and sorry. I think
and
that's
and I just want to apologize to the racers for the technical difficulties. They've been waiting patiently. They're both ready, and they're both ready. So I don't know. We're in the SRL now, waiting to see when they actually want to get going. But I do want to apologize to them, and once again, thank you, Angry Larry. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. I woke up and I saw, hey, I need somebody to fill a seat, and I'm like, all right, poker time, let's go. And it turned out not to be poker, but it's all right. This is fun as well.
Poker After Dark with JSR.
Poker After Dark was the best poker TV show.
Dude, it was awesome, man.
Hands
Phil
down.
Hellmuth was a savage.
Oh man, and Phil Locke and Esfandari giving it to Matisau and Helmuth was the best part of that. I have to set up the commands here so that people could follow runners and all that kind of stuff. So why don't you kind of filibuster here? Are they setting up?
Well, I do know that the races are about ready up, and they are ready. So the race is about to begin in 10 seconds. Brisulph is trying to better his PB, which is currently, if I remember correctly, and I had this window open for the race, about an hour and 30 minutes. And here we go. Right?
We just have to watch it in the multi-twitch, and then as soon as I see them start, I can start the timer like that. Why don't you take it here and tell us what do these runners do first in the race?
Well, the first thing they want to do is head down to Magic Cave, directly below the North Palace. And the reason they want to go to this cave, there's two reasons. Obviously, the magic container, which is required. You want to get all magic containers in 100%. And hopefully they can influence a P-bag drop. And if they can get the P-bag drop from these enemies here, it gives them a better shot at Attack 4 coming out of Palace 1, which is a huge advantage going into Death Mountain.
And the alternative to not getting that P bag?
It's a lot of RNG, a lot of luck, and both of our runners get the 50 bag right out of the gate. That is not a common thing to do, so they're set up for a pretty interesting start here. They may both end up with Attack 4.
Very nice. I haven't seen that. I don't even think I've seen a single person get it in all the races I've watched so far, let alone both of them.
I forgot what it feels like to get the P bag, to be honest with you.
Just have to change my title, change my game here, and I think we're
Now,
all set.
as they go into Shield Town to get the Shield spell, Dan H, he is one of the elite class of sub 80 Zelda 2 runners. His PB is 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 6 seconds. He also is interesting in the fact that he plays on the Wii Virtual Console, and at speedruns.com, he's the fastest Wii Virtual Console time listed. So, yes, that's technically a world record.
Yeah, he is one of the best. I mean, listen, a lot of people playing in this tournament are very good. There's a very close cluster of people on that hierarchy of PB times that you can find on different websites. But the one thing is, anything can happen in a race. Get one bad bubble, get one bad encounter skip, get one bad trip to and from Maze Island, and time can be saved or lost in any of those, and you don't have the luxury of resetting for new RNG, new luck, and stuff like that. You're not racing against your PB, you're racing against somebody else, and it could be
Exactly.
interesting. So
I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Bri's going to set up the first encounter skip here, going down to this heart container, waiting in that desert tile, and then he does get it.
This bubble skip. And it looks like Dan hits the bubble skip, and actually it looks like Bry's not going to get it, so he's going to have to go into one of the trolliest RNG room entire run, and that's the famous bubble room. And not only is it a big time loss, but it's risky because if he takes an unfortunate bop at the wrong moment, he can lose one of his precious lives early on, and not to mention the time loss, of course.
The time lost, the life lost, but also the potential for a death abuse time save later on in Palace 4 as well.
Exactly.
Die here, you may not have the luxury to do that. Coming back up, you can skip this encounter, but it takes a little while to set up, and I've never seen anybody do it with great certainty, so most runners will just run through the encounter the opposite direction.
It's definitely a risk. I mean, if you get good RNG on that first encounter skip coming out of the Candle Cave, and Bry falls into the water, I don't think that was intentional. I've never seen somebody do that in quite that fashion, because I don't think he took a bop there.
I'm not sure if he was avoiding it. I was watching Dan go into one and just making sure that I had had it set up so that Palace 1 graphic was up.
Yeah, we kind of last minute switching OBS and all that good stuff, so we do apologize if there are slight technical difficulties, but Angry Larry has very deftly worked them out as we head into Palace 1, and Dan now is in a really good position here.
Yeah, he went...
set up. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he went down the elevator to start, went left, grabbed this key that Bry is going to get now, and gonna go right to.
Now, believe it or not, this part of the palace is one of the really I don't want to say hard parts of the run, but it can really put a hurting on a good time, because those little tin suits that you're fighting, not only can they hurt you, although the damage is minimal, but they take 10 experience points away from you every time you get hit by one. And
you did get hit by 2 in your race, but you got a fortunate double bag, so you were able to get out of here with attack 4. Jake Hoper only got hit once in that same race, and if he got the P-Bag, he would have been 10 XP short of the potential to get attack 4. So every hit matters. You can see on Bry's screen, because Dan already did it, you jump over these Staphoses there, and you save them for later, because you want to set up getting maximum XP in the race. And what that means is when you're going to get a P-Bag from one of these large enemies, the P-Bag will be worth 200. The potential for the P-Bag would be worth 200 experience points. You grab the 200 experience points from a enemy that normally gives you 30 XP, and then you save the 50 XP Guma, or if you Doom Rattler, you just take the 50 XP from him, so you get 20 more XP. You min-max it that way, and that gets you pretty much attack 4 if you can get the P-Bags to drop.
If you don't do that exact same setup with those enemies, and you kill the wrong enemies at the wrong time, the potential for not getting attack 4 goes down dramatically, just because of the difference in experience that the Stalfos give compared to the Gumas and the Iron Knuckles.
Yeah, 50 versus 30 at that point. And let's remember, they have the first part of the attack 4 done, where they got the 50-point P-Bag in the Magic Container Cave to start. Now they got to get some 200-point P-Bags to drop.
And this is where the difference between taking those Tinsu bops and not comes into play, because as you can see, Dan did not take a Tinsu bop, and he only needs 1 P-Bag drop, and he'll be guaranteed attack 4 coming out of this palace, whereas Bry took a Tinsu bop, and now he's going to need a little luck, or he's going to have to kill some of the blue bots.
Both runners had to...
Are runners. I'm sorry.
Both runners had to do a little bit of a setup to get through those the bubbles, where one you hit the wall, so to set up the bubble so you can jump over it, and then you go down the elevator, you strike the wall, and then strike the wall on the next screen, and then you're able to manipulate the pattern so that you can stun the bubbles and walk through them on the way to get the item in Palace 1, which is the candle.
Unfortunate there, Bry gets the red jar. Well, he has one more shot at a P-Bag, so it's not rip attack 4 just yet, but he's going to need a little luck now as Bry grabs the candle. And yeah, that bubble screen if you just try to ramble on through it, you're almost guaranteed to take a hit. But a simple manipulation is all it takes, and you can get through that room pretty much just by walking through.
To get to attack 4, at Horsehead, both runners have to be at attack 3 and have at least 50 out of what would be 100 experience needed for the next level. Horsehead gives you 50 XP, you cancel out of that, place the gem, get the full 500 XP, and there's the 200 pbag for Dan. As I say
So
that.
Dan is in great shape now.
He's in perfect shape. He's going to get attack 4.
Yes, he will. And he hasn't taken any deaths. And Bry, on the other hand, might want to consider getting the ferry, and it looks like he's going to get it. Already losing a life on the bubble screen. Definitely can't afford another early game death, as we see Dan finish off Horsehead. And pretty darn good time for a Palace 1. Really good time.
So Dan's Bry's potential P-bag is going to come at the expense of this Iron Knuckle after this Guma, correct?
Yes. If he's killed all the enemies, which I believe he has, he'll have one more shot at a P-bag, which he absolutely needs to get to be able to get attack 4 coming out of here. So let's see if he's lucky enough. Dan is just running through the game at this point, and Bry unfortunately gets another red jar.
That is unfortunate, because now you're going to have to do attack 3, Death Mountain, and it's something like 26 hits, I believe. Highlander has said 26 extra hits total in the run.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's a lot of hits, which if you're quick enough with your attacks, you usually can get without too much of an issue. But it is still a time difference, and obviously not only the speed of getting through Death Mountain, but the extra damage you take because of the potential of having more encounters. Did Bry jump the gem there?
Yeah, Bry did what Jake Hoper did in your race, and he jumped the gem. He's going to go through it one more time. It's an alternate backup strat to ensure you have attack 4 going into Death Mountain, as Dan is going to get the jump spell here, which enables him to go through Jump Cave and get out the other side of the overworld. That was a second death, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like that strat. I understand why people do it, but not only is it a time loss, but you're going back through a dungeon again, and potentially this could be catastrophic for Bry. He's got to be very careful.
It is a straightforward go right to the last elevator, go down, go right to the boss kind of path. So it's not too long, but we did see an unfortunate death there. There was a ferry on the way, so that could have bailed him out as well. But he grabs attack 3, and I was just going to get 50 XP, and that's plentiful because you got at least 3 guys that give you 50 XP on the way, if not more. There's a 30, there's another 30. So he's going to have plenty. He might even take life 2 here as a result.
He definitely could afford it. I mean, he's got enough enemies that he could fight here. He should end up, and I'm not sure where his big count is, so it looks like he'll be able to get attack 4 at the very minimum, so he should be good. And Dan is just running through Jump Cave. Very impressive so far with Dan. He's on a great pace. He's actually pretty darn close to his PB so far.
And there is the gem for Bry. And he'll be on his way to Jump Town as Dan looks to take as few encounters here as possible while running to Bagu. So far, so good.
Yeah, that was a beautiful swamp walk coming out of Jump Cave. He did that flawlessly, no encounters. And it's a strange man in the woods who has apparent connections.
Oh.
But then he
just goes down.
Went down. You don't go down, and that's unfortunate. Although not going to be too much of a time loss. It is still, every little bit is going to help in Bry's quest to catch up with Dan in this race.
Yeah, a flawless swamp walk doesn't help at all, but a little bit of a little goof right there get us a little time back.
This is oh no.
I'm not too sure if Bryden just walked straight into that lava.
In
Just
all honesty,
to get all the
that
lives back.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he did that on purpose or not. And to be honest, that wouldn't have been the worst strat in the world. He had 0 experience points for the most part, and
the rules state you have to go back to where you were, and he didn't get the trophy. He just jumped. He just walked into the first pit. So little time lost to get all your lives back. Not
that
bad.
honestly wasn't a bad strat. Well played by Brian. Now, of course, he definitely needs to get on that horse and start grinding, but not a bad strategy there. As we see Dan picking up life spell. That is very useful in Death Mountain, especially if you are at attack 3 to help you survive.
Magic 1,
But
it
a lot
costs
of
you
casual-
70 MP to cast it, and that's virtually all your XP. It's 7/8 of your XP of your Magic MP at this point.
At
but
Magic 1, correct?
yeah, I went Magic 1. It goes down to 60. Sorry, it's 70 at Magic 1. Goes down to 60 at Magic 3.
Dan probably will be taking Magic 2 in Death Mountain. I would imagine most runners try to aim for 4-1-4-2-2 coming out of Death Mountain.
4-2-2, 4-2-3. I've seen on some runners do. It all depends on what they're comfortable with and how much I guess maybe bags they get on the way.
Yeah, I mean it really at the end of the day, it's if you want attack 5 early or if you want to wait until get into Palace 2. It's really the runner's call.
So here we see our first look at Death Mountain. Dan's going to virtually take every right he can coming out of these caves until he has to start taking downs and lefts are the only option.
I really wish Nintendo Power had told us that as kids. Just go down, just go right. Because I used to get lost in there for hours.
I don't even remember playing. I played this game as a kid, but I can't really say I really remember it other than I used to spend a lot of time grinding for 50-point pbags because I didn't know any better.
But yeah, it's really up to the runner if they take Magic 2 or Life 3 in Death Mountain. Some people like to get Attack 5 as fast as possible, just because that gives them that much of an edge in combat. But at the end of the day, it's kind of, you get to the same place. You're basically looking to get out of Palace 2 at Attack 6, Magic 2, Life 3. Another death by Bry there. Dan is just looking real comfortable in Death Mountain.
Yeah, he's flying. In every screen I see him in, he's just full stop. Here's our first red Dyra. And 3 hits with attack 4, and that's kind of why you want attack 4. In Death Mountain.
Really well played so far. Dan has made very few mistakes other than that goof coming out of Bagoo. And a really solid run for him so far.
We'll see Bry trying to do the same kind of walk over to Bagoo. He takes 1 encounter already.
So it's a lot of RNG. I mean, you can set it up perfectly and still end up taking encounters.
Oh yeah.
Not bad. A 1 encounter swamp walk there for Bry. Not bad at all.
He walks
Hopefully
around
he doesn't go
the
down.
tile. Yeah. So all said and done, probably the same time exiting Jump Cave to entering this bridge encounter for both runners.
Then, if Dan can get through this last Dyra, which he should have no problem with, he'll get a red jar here, which will allow him to fill up his health. And he's in great shape heading into Hammer Cave.
Bry is now going to grab the mirror to get the life spell and then be on his way to the back of the town. And will shortly be in Death Mountain, as Dan is probably going to exit Death Mountain at the same time.
Yeah, that's about where the pace is for these guys at the moment. Yeah, the splits, as Bry is about to pick up the life spell, he's quite a bit behind at this point. You never know what could happen in a race, but he's got a lot of ground to make up.
All right, just a few enemies on this screen. A couple Dairas. There's one. And there's the other. And he'll grab the hammer. And then walk back left, walk out of the cave, walk across, smash the boulder, and pick up the magic jar that's sitting there for him.
The second magic jar in the game. All 8 are required if you want to get the Thunder Spell. And the Thunder Spell is required to beat the game. That Mew right there is a really trolly Mew. You saw Dan stop to allow the Mew to jump into the lava. If you're going headstrong and try to jump over him, there's a good chance you're going to take a bop and then take a lava bath. So, well done by Dan there.
Yeah, and it's what we talked about before in the first bridge encounter on the way to the first heart container. There are certain places in this game where you can take an accidental, unexpected death just by taking a hit and getting knocked back into the lava or the water. And it's you want to limit them as much as possible in a race situation without taking hours to get by the guy, too, at the same time. So,
As Dan picks up the magic container, something we were talking about a minute ago, Larry, Bry did not take life 2 and is looking to get early attack 5. That can be an advantage, but if he takes too many bops here, the lower defense, that could end up being very costly.
Could be. He already took a death on this new set of lives he's had since the game over. And will it make up that much ground anyway? And where will Dan be when he finally gets to attack 5? And will he have attack 5 on his own? You know what I mean? It's like you might save a little bit here in Death Mountain towards the end, but Dan handled it so well that will attack 5 even make up that ground at this point in the race?
I don't know. Dan is playing so strong right now. I don't see that making too much of an impact, at least right now. But you never know. I mean, every little bit helps in a race because it only takes one big mistake, and we've got a race all over again. And we've seen that in this tournament already with a couple of races. Guys almost game overing in Great Palace. Guys taking the wrong levels at the wrong time. And a mistake like that could very easily make this even.
Oh, absolutely. The thing I'm scared about as a very novice all keys 100% person is that will taking 5-1-1 kind of mess him up a little bit towards other levels later on in the game.
It shouldn't.
Okay.
As we see Ryan Dan getting in a Mezzin cave, not execute the boulder dash correctly, unfortunately, and did take an encounter. It's really comes down to how many enemies you kill in 2, and because 2 does have so many enemies, and Dan takes an unfortunate death there.
So did Bry, though.
Yeah.
So synchronized deaths right there.
It really comes down to how many enemies you're willing to kill in Palace 2.
Right.
There's so many of them that if you do have if you're underleveled going into 2, you can very easily make those experience points up. So,
and then later on in the game, you skip so many enemies anyway that just killing 1 or 2 of them can bring you right back up to it. As we see Dan grabbing the Water of Life medicine, this will enable him to get the fairy spell.
Yes, and by the way, I do apologize. Dan just let us know in the chat that he did not do the boulder dash, which makes sense why it worked, because he didn't do it.
Yeah.
So my apologies on the misinformation there.
Bry is now entering the cave with the hammer. So he's a couple screens away from grabbing it and then concluding Death Mountain as he leaves and grabs the magic jar. See,
he'll have a chance to kind of get some breathing room with deaths because he's going to have the opportunity to pick up 2 extra lives. We just saw Dan pick up 1 outside of Medicine Cave, and gives you a little breathing room, especially if you don't anticipate taking death abuses.
Exactly.
Having those extra lives helps a lot.
Exactly what I was going to say, because there is an extra life coming out of the bridge after Death Mountain that Dan passed over. You can go down and grab that. You can also go down and grab that, and Enchantress of Numbers did after you're done with Palace 2 as well. If you really need
people,
life.
Yeah, I've seen people pick that up actually coming out of Palace 3 even. It really just comes down to whether or not you feel comfortable skipping it or if you plan on doing death abuses.
Bry is down 2 deaths right now on this run, so this is his last life. So he might
be very...
Yeah, because you start over at the Northern Palace, the palace you start at. Everywhere in this game you game over except if you're in the Great Palace. So you definitely don't want to game over somewhere in the Eastern Continent. So that 1-up may go a long way to preventing that. But if he does game over near Palace 2, it's not that bad of a walk because now you have the hammer. You don't have to go through Jump Cave. You can just come down the right-hand side by Shield Town and get right back to where you were.
Yeah, but definitely taking a death here would be a really, really dramatic blow to chances of getting back in this race. He's got to be very careful.
Dan is in Mido. And, let's call the whole thing off. And gets down stab, and now he's going to cash in the Water of Life / medicine for the fairy spell. And then from here, he's just going to walk on over to the Heart Container Cave that's blocked by a boulder on his way to Palace 2.
And the fairy spell, not quite as useful as it is in any percent, but oh no, Bry with the unfortunate game over. That was bad. Bad spot to take a game over there, and now he's got to go all the way back.
Yeah,
Death Mountain.
That was Death Mountain. That was before he got the hammer.
Oh, he did get
he got the hammer. He got the hammer. But he's got
He's on his way back from the hammer.
Yeah, now he's taking a phone call, so it looks like he's...
Not much, just in a race. No big deal. And because of what was going on, we did miss out on something that we're getting a little bit of heat on in the chat. We did not mention that in Mido, when Link picks up the hammer, that is the only time Link talks in Zelda 2. And correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, but I believe that's the only time Link speaks in the entire franchise.
No, I found the mirror. He also says in Saria, when you grab the mirror before you get the life spell. And he also says that something about the chimney in New Kasuto, if you talk instead of just going directly in the chimney, he also speaks then too.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant was Saria. I think I said Mido, but yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Now here we go with the dreaded Swamp Walk. He executes the first part of it flawlessly. Is set up. He might take a 1-encounter Swamp Walk here if he can pull off the second part, and unfortunately does take an encounter, but that's pretty much status quo for this part. And then gets the half encounter on the land, so not a bad Swamp Walk at all for Dan. A 1.5 encounter walk. He's having a very strong section here coming out of Mido.
Yeah, so as he enters Palace 2 here, again, this is all keys 100%. So what he has to do is he has to go down this elevator all the way, go to the right, pick up the first key, go up a floor, go to the left, pick up another key, and then go back to that main floor and progress from there, grabbing a key on his way to other elevators and more keys. It's kind of a thing in Zelda 2. Navigate the palace, take elevators, find keys, open doors, grab the item, and kill a boss.
So I can't help but wondering whether... Okay, there now he gets going again. Bry is going continue, and he's headed back to Death Mountain. He needs to return to the screen that he game overed, and has quite a trek ahead of him, and hopefully he can make up some of the time he lost, but it's not looking good at this point.
Now that was the Mew screen after the hammer, correct?
I think it was actually the Vire screen that he took the death on.
Oh, okay.
Or excuse me, the not the Vire, the
Aikman?
What are they called? The Aikman, thank you.
Yeah.
Troy Aikmans, yes. I called them Vires as kids, and I knew that was the wrong name, but it just stuck with me. A lot of this game is like that.
In preparing for the randomizer tournament and knowing, enemies and XP and all that, I found such discrepancies with the names of enemies between different wikis and stuff. It's pretty funny. Both being of the English variety cart and not the FDS cart. So like the Doom Rattlers or Doom Rattle is they're also called Gumas, Guma. So it's
really?
Yeah, so it's pretty weird. So and then like
Well,
Lizalfoses are gurus and Zoras are ballistics or basilics or whatever, however you want to pronounce it. I'm the worst with pronunciations, living in New York and being of Italian heritage. It's pretty bad, but
I'm definitely not known for my ability to take a. Oh.
Well, there's one of the ways that things could go wrong. Get a little bop, like you said, and go into the lava and lose a dude. He did grab that one up coming out of the medicine cave, so he's back to his standard stock of. Actually, he's one down because he died another time too.
Correct. That is a risky strat to go into that troll bridge there. It's a faster strat, but some racers won't do it, and that is to jump up on that first part of the bridge where the two bots sit and hit one, and then immediately pick up that key and use the fairy spell. It's a faster strategy, but if bot decides that he's going to come and give you a bot kiss, then end up taking a lava bath, and that's what we saw with Dan there.
So Dan's going to go left here and pick up the item at the end of this corridor or set of rooms. The glove is the item in Palace 2. You use that to break blocks, like the blocks that are going to rain upon his head here, like that. You can now.
He was fortunate not to get the middle finger of doom right there. I've seen some pretty trolly block patterns. We saw one in John Bloody Thumb's massive 4-game marathon yesterday, and props to JBT for being able to finish all 4 of his races in one day. But he had a very trolly key room in Palace 5, and it cost him a lot of time. Those blocks can be very, very trolly, and luckily without the glove in that situation, you only have one exit, but that wasn't really an issue for Dan there.
So Bry just picked up the 1-up and the medicine of life. He did not go back to Death Mountain. Is that correct?
I did not see him go back to Death Mountain. I wonder if he's going to go the back way here, and that might be his best strategy. It should be a little quicker. If he goes the back way, he'll be able to get back to the screen that he died on and then continue his run. Rather than going back the long way through Saria, he should be able to save some minutes going that direction.
He's going to grab that second 1-up we talked about, Dan skipping prior. So now that Dan has the glove, he can get through this room, which blocks him otherwise from getting to the boss of Palace 2, Helmet Head.
Helmet Head is fun. I like fighting Helmet Head. He's not too difficult if you know how he acts. I'd say he's way harder for casual players, obviously, but...
he's got that weird hurt box in front of him that's a little bit in front, so that you jump into him repeatedly if you're not used to it. Same thing with Horsehead, where you can jump and hit him over his ears, where you're not hitting him, but you're damaging him. You get damaged by Helmet Head, yeah. Older games as well. Bry did not go back to Death Mountain. He is in Mido right now.
So I wonder if he is aware that he needs to go back to that screen. That is a possibility. Perhaps his phone call threw him off his game. Chat was telling us that his wife had called him, so perhaps he forgot that he needs to go back. The rules state that he does have to revisit that screen. I do not know if the rules state you can revisit that screen at any time in your run, or if it's before you can continue, but he's now in he's now in Mido and has not returned to that screen yet.
You're allowed to take a faster path to that room, but so long as you go back into the very same room. That was a pretty good fight.
What a fight by Dan. Took Helmet Head out quickly. That was tremendous. Hit the jackhammer on his head and did really well there, considering I don't know if he knows where he is compared to his opponent, but he's going ham right now.
I believe so. I believe he knows. He last race I called with him involved. He was watching his runner, and I believe that him and Bri were going to hook up on Discord or Skype and talk to each other. I believe that was the teaser of the race. That it's going to be a crazy fun time. I tried to get some info out of him, but Dan was just like, "You better stay tuned." So.
Well, there are people in chat, and again, this would be something to ask Prez J Polk about. There are people in chat saying that the rules state you have to turn to the screen of game over before you can picking up plot items or spells.
Well, here's what the rule says. It doesn't say anything like that. It says, after any game over, the player must return to the same room where the game over happened, so that the game over warping is not happening. I guess it means to abuse a game over and get further along in the game. It is allowed to take a faster path back to the room, such as when returning to the hammer cave after getting the hammer, as long as Link gets back to the very same room. It never says you can't do anything. It never says you have to do it immediately before you do something else. It just says that any game over, the player must return to the same room where the game over happened. So unless there's an additional rule of that somewhere else written in a different category or under a different paragraph, that is the rule on tournament races where game overs are allowed.
Well, it seems like he's headed back in that direction.
Yeah, as DH points out, he has to go back that way for the magic container anyway. So
correct.
And as we enter Palace 3 on Dan's side, Dan have a good walk to 3 because I was reading the reading the rules. It looks like he might have.
Yeah, pretty status quo. The walk to 3, getting out of Palace 2 is the only part where you can really control, and you generally are going to take at least one encounter there. But I think he only took one. He might have taken a road encounter. I was also kind of reading over the rules there, but he's on a pretty good pace here, and if he's able to have a good Palace 3, he's going to continue his pace. He's currently about a minute off his PB.
He promises that the fun will happen later. It hasn't happened. It's not happening during the race, so we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm actually a little intrigued to see what he's talking about here.
He hyped it just enough. And by saying that, I mean he mentioned it like once for me to be intrigued as well. So
he skips the Doom Knocker there, so currently he's in pretty good shape with experience points, so it shouldn't be an issue. There's enough enemies in 3 that typically if you're going to go 6-3-3 in Palace 3, you want to make sure you have at least 500 experience points before you reach Rebenek.
Mm-hmm.
And Magic 2, oh gosh, I can't talk. Magic 3 is only 300 experience points, so he should pick that up here pretty quick. And he's in pretty good shape with his leveling. He's off to a good start.
And for those who are new or haven't played this game since like they were a kid, one of the better things to do in this game is you manipulate your levels so that when you place the gem, you're taking it at a maximum amount of experience points. You'll see runners pass pbags that will infuriate you if you remember playing this game as a kid or if you casually play this game. That is to set up those things. Those pbags are probably not relevant. They're probably just extra XP towards that level that they're going to get at the gem anyway. But at the same time, they don't want to take higher magic or life levels than they need to, because that means they have to pass a higher threshold before getting the maximum amount of experience that the attack levels of 5, 6, and 7 would cost. So it sets up a very particular pattern of what enemies they kill and what they don't kill, and to save time as well. So the raft is the item in Palace 3. Allows us to get to the Eastern Continent, which we'll go to after this palace.
Using Fairy to skip the animation sequence there saves you a couple seconds. And Brian doing his best to get through Death Mountain, but he's in dire straits with his health here. I do not know his life stock at the moment.
I didn't notice him taking a death, but I've been going back and forth between the layout, the rules, and then the and Dan as well. So
Well,
we'll see.
hopefully he'll queue up a spell here soon, or
Hopefully we don't see him game over to find out the answer that way.
yeah, he's almost back where he was. So, and the chat is still discussing the rules as we see first staircase room on Dan's side, and a flawless room gets out of there, grabs the key, takes a couple bops, but not really.
Yeah, they're guaranteed damage even in 100% all keys when you get to those enemies. I hate them.
It's just like the Medusas in Castlevania. They're just that pattern that you just can't avoid them no matter what you do. And and unfortunate.
Yeah, that was his first death with the two one-ups he grabbed on the way.
Okay, so he should be okay, theory, to back to where he game over. And dealing with the Dairas as Dan is already approaching the boss room of Palace 3.
He's slower than his PB, and every split he's getting a little bit slower according to that time, but he's still flying through this.
He's on a good enough pace right now that if he can come within a couple minutes of his PB, that's a very respectable race time and a flawless Rebenak fight.
Right.
He is losing a little time on his PB, but I know me personally, I would take the pace he's on at the moment, especially in a race.
And now Bry is on his way out of Death Mountain.
So now that Bry has returned to the screen, he should be able to continue to run and head to Palace 2. And Dan taking attack 7, 733 coming out of Palace 3, so his leveling is right on point.
Sorry for the scratching.
And he will be heading to possibly the most pointless town, pick up the most amazing spell in the game.
It does has its uses in one screen in this category.
It has its uses. I actually have been known to employ the fire strats from time to time. One screen on the way to New Kasuto. But since I run at 878 typically, no fire strats against Link at the end of the game. But we will have to wait and see. As Dan says, we better watch now. Let's see what Dan is attempting to pull off here.
See if he does what I do when I get the fire spell in the randomizer, immediately cast it and try to burn the old man.
So far, 3 encounters on the way to Palace 2 for Bry. Having a rough swamp walk here.
I think he's showing us that Link is talking yet again, want to get some water. I'm sure that's not the fountain talking to him.
That is correct. Another instance of Link's
Or it could be the fairy that resides over his shoulder. I didn't see, hey, listen, or anything, but I don't know if that fairy exists in this game, in lore.
Navi, please. And now, fire is going to be employed. Let's see if he does. Oh, it does not burn the old man. So, interesting. What is he going to do with the fire spell?
Well, I think he just showed us the text. He let it play the whole way. For the I am thirsty and the would you like to grab some water?
And he was the one in chat that was referring to the fact that we did not speak Link speaking. So it's very possible that was why. Bry taking another break here with another phone call, and whatever the reasoning for it, I'm sure it's good because I put my phone on silent and I don't touch it during a race, so hopefully nothing super important taking place that is causing him to put the race down. But this is a devastating blow for his chances, and at this point I don't know if he has a real shot to recover.
No, at this point it's probably going to take a lot. We got 2 encounters for Dan on the way to Maze Island. So Dan's going to come through Maze Island, pick up the abandoned child or the stolen child, and then make his way all the way back west to a town to drop off the child and get the Reflect spell along with Upstab. Reflect is required to beat the boss of Palace 4, which you see on his screen right now, Carrick.
Also known as, in certain circles, as the robed feminist hygiene product.
I believe that's an emote you can type out, but I'm not too sure how to spell feminine or hygiene, so I can't do it.
So now Dan will be setting up the famous Dazzle Walk, discovered by Dazzle himself. And what it is you wait for a certain cue music, and if you're able to pull it off, you have the potential for a 0 encounter walk to Darunia. And so far, so good for Dan here. Nice juke there to get through the second encounters. And it looks like he's going to pull it off flawlessly. But misses forced encounter skip. And he's going to not attempt to set it back up. He's going to go straight on through. And,
yeah. This is the easier of the two encounters. You just got to be careful not to jump into the water yourself, because the Octoroks are pretty much no problem with down stab. He gets the second
looks
skip,
like he
though.
got the second.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one, yeah, absolutely. If you're not trying to preserve lives, you might as well just take that forced encounter and just get through. And you can save time if you set it back up and nail it the second try, but if you miss it a second try, at that point you're losing time.
I see people in a category like this, the best runners run a pretty similar pattern, try to do the same manipulation for the same skips. There's not a lot of bit of variability from run to run, but one of the things I do see is on the way back, not setting up that second skip sometimes and just going right through that Octorok screen, because you're coming at a higher elevation down. You can pretty much just pogo down stab over those Octoroks for days and don't have to worry about a troll spawn. It's a guaranteed time loss, I guess, as opposed to not knowing if you're going to save time or lose time based on the trolliness of the encounters. Trying to skip them.
And there's a situation like that with bubble skip at the beginning of the game, where if you get a favorable spawn pattern with the encounters, almost get through the bubbles only a couple seconds slower than what the bubble skip would be with less risk. But I don't see a lot of runners, myself included, do that because speedrunners were greedy.
Dan doesn't do the second skip. And here is the reflex spell. He got Upstab as well. I didn't see if he did Fairy Claws or not.
He did do Fairy Claws.
Okay, so we have to properly showcase a emote for that as well. So
very recently, I believe it was Highlander that discovered it. Before he did, the old strat there was the jump spell, and then I believe it's a frame and pixel perfect jump to reach the rooftop there the quick way. Otherwise, you have to go all the way around. And it was discovered that if you cast Fairy Spell while you are crouching, you can actually remain in the crouching position while you're a fairy, and the game thinks you're going down the chimney.
Dan was trying to grind for Life 4 in town, but I don't think the lady gave him the preferable pbag you normally get in that town when you turn into a bat. I'm not too sure about that strategy, but it was funny. I'm kidding. I know he's not grinding for life.
But as we just saw, Dan took a very unfortunate death on the bubble screen there, and that is the risk with the bubble version of that forced encounter. It only takes one rogue bubble.
Yeah.
Now he's down to 2 lives. Big lead still, a huge lead.
Yeah, because Bry is just getting to the glove in Palace 2 now, so it's almost a full 2 Palace lead at this point. Game over on the Eastern Continent is a time loss, though. Let's not downplay that. But he's got a couple extra lives with him, so he should be alright.
Yeah, Dan should be fine. Obviously, having 2 lives left means that he will not be able to death abuse in Palace 4. But at this point, and again, if he's aware of how large his lead is at this point, you probably aren't going to use the death abuse. The 1 encounter maze walk for Dan. He's now in the maze, and for those of you that do not understand why we take the long way around in speedruns. We first off want to get this magic container that Dan is about to acquire, required to get the Thunder Spell at the end of the game. And then also, with the path that he's going to take, there's only one forced encounter, and it's a relatively tame one. Whereas if you go through the other encounters, it's a lot slower and a lot more dangerous.
Your pedometer, or whatever you do to count steps, will be shorter. But with all the encounters you take, it is actually longer going the short way, based on just what you said, yeah.
Correct. So he will be exiting this forced encounter. Those enemies on this screen can only be killed using the fire spell in the US version, although in the FDS version you kill them with your sword. And he shouldn't have any more encounters all the way up into Palace 4, and that's the reason you see them take the long way around in speedrun.
Less encounters, less of a chance that something goes wrong, less of a chance of chip damage adding up to a game like a loss of life later on as well.
But no swaggy fire spell, which is unfortunate. He gets into Palace 4.
I'm sure we'll see fire on Thunderbird and Darklink.
It's a requirement in this category, I do believe. Which is why I get DQ'd in every run since I run 878. We saw Bride just pick up the last key in Palace 2. He'll be headed down to the last corridor, and he'll be facing Helmet Head here. The jump that Dan is about to perform without jump spell is a pretty tough jump. You see Dan use the jump spell and gets through no problem. Falling there is catastrophic.
And he'll use the jump spell, I believe, in this screen as well? No, he's not. He's just going to break the blocks. This is the easier of these screens, I believe. Oh,
these screens are all
nice recovery by that Doom Knocker there to double jump back onto the platform like he's I want to be the guy or something. Doesn't get the red jar though to fill up his magic. He's got enough magic. He doesn't need it.
Yeah, if he hadn't taken that death earlier, we might have seen a death abuse there.
He might have, and he might still take one later on the screen where the heads are flying at you.
Dreaded head room. I don't know what those guys are called. I forget the dragon heads.
Roz.
They have a name.
Roz. Yeah.
So, and Bry having an okay fight so far as he's in good shape health wise. He should get through Helmet Head no problem, and he does.
And there's our item in 4, which is I forget, so I have to wait. It's the boots.
Interesting that Dan did not jackhammer that Iron Knuckle. Typically, you'll see the runners jackhammer through. The jackhammer is performed with the downward thrust, and the game allows for repeated use of pressing down on the control pad, and in certain enemies' hitboxes, you can continuously press down and put multiple hits at a very high rate. And against those Iron Knuckles in those corridors, you can actually kill them before they have a chance to counterattack. And surprising to see that he did not use it there. He might have just missed it.
Here's our second of our dead-end key screens in Palace 4. Similar to the first one, you have a Doom Knocker to start, but then you have the Stalfos right after. And a 200-point P-Bag, which will bank. Now we pretty much don't have to kill anything else to get out of here at 834.
Interesting that he's going to use 834 strats here. Some people use 844 strats. That means he'll probably be trying to take both a life and or possibly a life and definitely a magic level up in Palace 5.
Yeah, from what I used to prepare for this category a few months ago before the tournament was announced, when I was going to start playing it, I watched Feasel play, and Feasel was 834 out of 4, and going into 5. So
I've also seen Simple, JN, and FAP use the same strats.
Yeah.
So it's for the higher end runners, you'll typically see them. It's at 834 coming out of 4.
And the other dude I prepared by watching Vrez. He was also 834 coming out of 4.
Shouts out to Rez and his broken microphone.
Ping.
We gotta make an emote for that, man.
Just make him annoyed every time it happens in chat, so he wastes a run trying to find a new microphone like he did last time. We didn't want that, but certainly ping.
So I'll be posting the GoFundMe chat for his new mic. None but love, Rez. We love you, man.
So Brian's gonna make his way up this elevator. Dan's gonna make his way up this elevator and go to the left side of the palace now, pick up a few more keys, and be on his way to Carrick. I believe there's 2 more keys left, 3 more keys left, and then the final boss.
Interesting. Dan is going back up. Is he going to go for a red jar?
Yeah, he got a red knuckle to start, so the potential for something is available to him. Bang out, bang back in, get another jar, and then tackle the other end of the palace with full magic, full life.
Safety strats here, but with the lead he has, why not? Especially considering he's taking some unfortunate deaths. Might as well employ this strategy, because without a magic level up here, do need enough magic to cast Reflect against Rogue the Douche. And he is going to be in good shape here as long as he doesn't take a death in the dreaded... what were they called again? Dax?
Roz?
Roz,
Yeah.
whatever. Those little sons of guns. One of the trolliest rooms in the entire run, and if you have enough lives, you can take a death abuse there, and it's not really an issue. You just got to get to the first. But with him only having 2 lives remaining, it's going to be paramount that he does not take an unfortunate death there, or he'll have to be very careful for the remainder of his run.
I can only think of 2 more 1-ups available to you. One after the Rebo fight in Palace 6, one in the forest on the way to the hidden Tanakasudo. Is there one on that island south of Palace 5, or is that a pbag?
The island south of Palace 5.
Yeah, through the water. You can walk to get the heart container, you can walk through the water to get to Palace 5, and then you can walk further down and get around on the side of that mountain. And I think there's an encounter
fairly
there.
certain it's not an extra guy.
Yeah.
It might be a pbag. But then again, I've rarely seen speedrun. I don't think I've ever seen a speedrunner go down to that island in vanilla.
Yeah, me either. And I don't know if I ever have.
Employing safety strats here, killing the...
Yeah, he says upstab is a guaranteed for no death in this room, so probably won't see the death abuse here.
It's a pretty easy room if you take the safety strats. If you try to run through, though, it is a very dangerous room. He's going to employ the ferry strats here, and then swag under the bridge.
Under over.
Flight.
Yeah, a little under over here.
Yeah. It's like a slalom course, except for a lot more trolley. And now he'll make his way to Karok, and with his full health and full magic, as long as he can make it there without a death, he'll be in good shape.
Yeah, go to the end of this screen, go down an elevator, go directly right, and fight the Rogue Douche, I guess. We already said we broke the ice and said it, so I can say it now.
Oh, there's no emoji. What the heck?
I had it. I don't know what happened. I might have Fat Douche, though.
Oh, man.
I had it.
Fat Douche. There's a lot of really good Zelda 2 emojis nowadays. Level 1 was the one that created the Rogue Douche, if I'm not mistaken.
He's a good guy. I like that guy.
Yeah, really good guy. And now, as Bry enters the first staircase room, actually having I was about to say a decent Palace 3. Unfortunately, did not get through the stairs flawlessly, taking a lot of hits here. But finally able to claw his way out and then right back in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm one person who can't get the motor skills right to hit right directly on the controller without hitting down a little bit. So what winds up happening is you start just breaking blocks immediately instead of jumping, and put yourself right back into a hole, as Dan does place the gem in for.
Really amazing Karok fight. The skill employed in that fight was flawless.
So it should be said for anybody who doesn't know, Carrick doesn't really depend on your attack level. It's with 8 straight hits. It's 8 hits total. It doesn't matter what you're at. So you just have to kind of duck in the corner and wait for him to bounce his beams back at him. But it takes a lot out of you. It's a lot of work involved.
It's really just all RNG, and it's unfortunate sometimes as we see Dan entering Palace 5 and wonder whether or not he'll be employing the famous eco key strategy here. We'll have to wait and see. Karok is completely RNG, and I've seen him ruin many a run just based on the fact that there's nothing you can do about it, really.
He doesn't even attempt it. He's just going to cast Fairy, just Fairy over. So why don't you explain what this trick is?
Well, the eco key is a very precise movement involving the jump spell and a damage boost that, if you pull it off correctly, allows you to jump right up to the key. And problem with it is that if you miss it, at that point you want to just cast Fairy and go up and get the key, but that does reduce your magic to the point where the next key that you'll see Dan go after here in a minute, the infamous key block room, you won't have enough magic to use the jump spell, and thus you rely a lot more on RNG to get that key, and it's a huge time loss if it's not in your favor. It was an amazing Karok, by the way, Dan. Very amazing Karok.
Bry is now going over to the Eastern Continent, so he'll go pick up the Fire spell and then to Kid, to Darunia, and then to Palace 4.
Oh, and he's getting the middle finger of doom in the key. Hopefully the game will give him some blocks. It finally does, and he's able to get the key. He'll make his way out of this horrible room and gets a nice red jar drop, although he should be getting a red jar next room. It's always nice. He'll be able to fill up his life.
Yeah, he'll be able to full life, full magic at the end of this room. Do we backtrack this room? That's the one thing I don't know. No, we don't. Okay. So he'll go down here and he'll make his way left. Going right is a pure dead end. There's no reason to do it.
We'll see our first appearances here from the Magos, and they are a great source of experience points if you need them. And most of the time, you won't see runners stop to kill them. But if you do mess up your leveling at all, they are a great source of experience points to help you recover. The only problem is they do deal a lot of damage. Now that Dan is at 844, we'll have to wait and see what his strategy is. Is he going to sit on 844 here, or is he going to try for life 5?
They're 200 points a pop. So if you need that little bit of extra to get over to the next level, I mean, it's 1200 to get to the full whatever attack is. Is it 9,000 at this point, I believe? So he needs to get 1,200 experience points. So if he's short of anything, one Mago kill equals one large P-bag, but there's plenty of experience to go around. And he may not want
Palace 5 has a lot of experience points, especially towards the end. And he should be okay. If he decides to stay at 4-4, he will only need 700 experience points before he makes his way to Guma. And really not that hard to gain those experience points by just continuing through the dungeon as he jackhammers through the Iron Knuckle and picks up the Plunger.
Almost simultaneously as Bry picks up the Kid, now he's going to do the walk on over to the town of Darunia to deliver the Kid, get up, stab, get reflect, and then come back to Palace 4. See if he does the what do you call that? This walk?
This is the Dazzle Walk.
The Dazzle
we
Walk.
saw almost flawless one performed by Dan, although he wasn't able to get the first forced encounter skip. The actual walk itself was flawless. We'll see if Bry has any luck as he picks up a much-needed doll.
He doesn't wait, so I guess he's not going for that particular skip, but he is pause buffering to when the encounters pop up to try to avoid them, but he does take an encounter in the forest.
Not too bad. I mean, if you're not going to wait for the Dazzle, a one encounter is not a bad result. See if he can get to the forced encounter. He does not.
There's Dan picks up the key, and this is the worst part of the run for me, is I hate this walk to get the flute and go up and get this key because you have to come all the way back. It's really one of the only parts of the game where you have to backtrack so far.
it's one of the biggest time losses in this category compared to any percent. It's a really, really big detour.
I'm
And,
not. I'm not going to blow up his spot or anything, but I've seen somebody try to do this differently.
as far as getting the key at a different point.
Yeah, getting the key and getting the flute in different orders.
I actually do it in a different order. I usually get the key and then I go for the flute. And the reason I do that is that if I am taking too many hits, I can use a backup strat and get that red jar in the flute room and refill health. Although at this point, I really don't need that backup strat as much as I used to. But some runners will do that. But for the most part, everyone gets the flute before they get that key.
And there is Upstab after a very successful fairy clause. Now
Very successful.
And now we'll go get the reflex spell.
So, making up a little time on his own personal best. Let's see if he's able to finish this run strong.
Now,
As
Dan's going to pick up the last placed key in the game right now.
this is the last key, other than
the bosses.
Right.
Yeah.
yes,
Last key that's officially on the ground that doesn't fall from the ceiling magically after you beat something.
exactly. After you accidentally soft lock against Revenak. Not that I've ever done that before. No.
Or die the Barba as you kill him, and then come back in the room and wonder where that key comes from.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't. Some people do that. I don't know. I didn't say you.
I actually had a personal best attempt fall short because of that. I ended up misleveled and was unfortunately unable to have a great palace, and it cost me dearly.
Dan saves that jar there for on his way up, and now he is, I believe, one screen away from Guma.
Yeah, his experience points look good. He should be leaving this palace with. It looks like he's going to be going for 886 strats. That's what it appears to be, anyways. So let's see how his Guma goes. The safe route, the crouching stabs, and not a bad fight.
No, pretty good. Very good.
That is Palace 5.
Let's see if he goes for here. I don't remember exactly, but I remember he did have a little bit of a different leveling than what I was prepared for in my watching, like I said, Feasel or Rez or Simple.
Well, in the chat, Dan has just informed us his
877,
strats 877.
Yeah.
So I imagine he's going to take Magic 7 here, but then again, we'll have to wait and see. And,
So even though this heart container is on the way to Palace 5, what they do here is they wait until after Palace 5 to pick it up because it sets something up, right, James?
Correct. He's going to attempt the river dance. It is an encounter skip that you will walk back on the water one extra tile than you would normally, and then perform the rest of the walk in the correct manner. You will actually set up a forced encounter skip on the first Wilson screen, and we'll see if Dan is able to pull that off. He pulls off the first part correctly and now uses the plunger to get rid of the River Devil. And
They
does
did not follow
not
him.
get
No.
favorable pattern to get the encounter skip, so he'll just go on through.
Not that hard of a screen. They throw things, you just take a little bit of a pause, they'll throw it behind you, and then they'll throw it in front of you again as you start the move. So it's just the time it takes to walk through as opposed to just getting the skip as you're on the move.
It's not really a huge deal. It's
No.
just a time loss more than anything.
But I tell you,
It's also a bummer.
yeah, these screens as a kid, though.
Oh my god. That's what everyone refers to as the Wilson screens, because he pokes his head up like Tim Allen's
Everybody?
neighbor in Home Improvement. That's what I understand.
Okay.
Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, those screens as a kid were just really, really, really difficult. And this next encounter area, the forest here on the way to New Kasuto, there's not really a foolproof strategy to get through without encounters. It's more just how good you are at slinking through, and he does take 2 encounters, so not horrible. And he should make his way to New Kasuto now.
Yeah, and it should be noted that New Kasuto is buried in the woods, and you have to use the hammer to unveil it, not the horn, not the flute, not the plunger, whatever you call it.
Well, Link is strong enough to get rid of an entire tile of trees in one hammer swing, so whatever workouts he's doing or whatever hammer he's using, definitely the secret is real.
And there it is, New Kasuto.
Now, one thing we have to get in this category is the magic key or the master key. I always called it the all key as a kid, but the key here is hidden in a secret bunker that you have to employ the spell that you find in this town, which just so happens to be called Spell.
See, spell. There you go. He's showing us how Link talks again.
Nice. I actually did not know that Link talked there. I did not know that until
Dan
just showed us that.
It's one of the time loss or potential time loss things. If you try to enter that cave by pressing the button instead of pressing up, you'll prompt the dialogue box or whatever instead of just going right through. I mean, not like a huge time loss, but brain goes to sleep. You just hit the button as you go to the door and lose a few frames.
And save the frames, kill the animals.
See,
so
Bryce.
He picks up the...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. It's all you.
He picks up the spell as Bry picks up the boots in Palace 4, and now have World Boner Hype as the spell magically creates the bunker that it contains the key.
Dan does pose for us this time as he unveils it. Last time he did no swag pose, but he made up for the swag at the end of the race, though. So hopefully he does it again this time. That's a little.
I gave it a little bit of a higher rating.
Yeah, I think you're just kissing up.
Now he'll pick up the last magic container in the game.
Brian utilizes the death abuse in one of the screens in 4.
Picking up the magic container after you get the key allows you to leave Kasuto with full magic without having to visit Magic Lady. So, well done strat there by Dan. And now we will see him head to the final heart container in the game, and then head to Palace 6. Of course, if he doesn't use fire here, then it's a reset.
I don't think he used fire in his race with Enchantress. I think he might have ferried right through it, or he might have just powered through it with down stabs and pogos. Yeah, he's just going to do that.
All right, I give that one a 2.
What, the no fire strat? The pogoing?
Yeah, you have to use the fire strats on that screen.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen. I'm not one to tell people how to manage their magic, but maybe he does need that MP a little bit later.
This is true. I mean, I actually use fire there for a different reason. It's a little bit less of a cost than fairy. Some people will use fairy just to get through that screen safely. But because you're about to pick up the heart container, as you see Dan pick it up, you automatically get the full health refill. So to me, it's better to conserve the magic and just get through the screen. But that depends on the runner, really.
And we are now in 6.
This is the first palace and the only palace with locked doors where the magic key comes into play. And luckily, no searching for keys in this palace. You just need to pick up the item and head on through. Nice swag iron knuckle kill there.
Little elevator action strategy there. Get the guy near the shaft and just have him fall down.
He gave him the shaft.
Yeah.
Brian headed on the way to final parts of 4.
So again, like we said, you just said the magic key, the all key, opens every door. Because the game puts the items in a particular fashion, in a particular order, This palace has no keys. We mentioned that when we talked about the last freestanding key being in Palace 5. So really at this point it's just a straight walk to the right here. You're going to find another instance of Rebenek, and on the other side you're going to get the item of the palace, which is the cross. And then you're going to backtrack all the way, fall a few times, have to go through another instance of Rebenek, fall again, and then you'll be right at the boss of the palace, Barba.
Correct. And there are some jumps in this sequence that, if you do happen to miss these jumps,
Like right there.
catastrophic. Nice jump there. And he will pick up the red jar that in my race, but when you and Rez were talking about, I didn't know that jar existed.
Not a lot of people do. I mean, one of the fortunate things of being schooled in randomizer and not the generic vanilla version of this game is that you enter these rooms in different directions at most times. And it just enables you to be aware of jars. And that's one of the ones I've learned from that is there's a jar there. And I don't see a lot of people looking for it.
I definitely am going to employ that in my next run, as we see a great quick kill of Rebenek by Dan, and then Brian taking a death abuse in the key room, and now he'll head to Karok. It's especially in this palace because magic is so paramount. It's so important because if you don't have enough magic to employ the fairy strats... Oh, and he misses the jump. Let's see if he can pull off the jumpless jump here.
I think he cast jump against Eon here, or she did. But when missing that jump, but yeah, handles it.
But if you don't have enough magic to cast fairy in the last part of this dungeon, it can really be a bottleneck for a speedrun, and you at that point either need to the death abuse or unfortunately fall down the hole and hit the iron knuckle statue for a red jar, but that is a tremendous loss of time if you have to employ that strat.
And it's a chance for a red jar. It's not even a guaranteed, and that's a pretty long room.
So we'll see if he can get the ceiling walk. Oh!
Nope.
What is this? No, I'm just kidding.
So far, so good on the magic, though. And this is one of the rooms that I particularly hate with the Roz and the Muse. And is there even bots or ropes on this one? I get it confused with the randomized version.
No bots or ropes, but the Muse here are pretty trolly. Not as bad as the bots, but with the heads flying around the room, very easy to take a bop into the lava. And even if you use fairy to recover, blocks at the end of the room make it so that you cannot continue. You have to backtrack and re-enter the room.
And while killing the Roz make them go away, you can actually respawn them if you scroll the screen backwards a little bit to the point where they would have appeared normally. And nice surprise mid-jump when another one's coming at you and you already killed both of them, and could lead to a death.
The game knows.
No worries there. Our explanation took longer than it took him to get through the room.
Yeah, we're really well played 6 so far for Dan. He's in great shape, and that the last Rebenek fight here, get through here without too much trouble, he'll be in great shape for Barba.
No,
he does.
No eco key attempt for Bry either. He just casts fairy as soon as he enters the room.
So now, with the magic that Dan has remaining, he should be in fine shape. He'll even have magic left over. So we'll see his strategy against Barba here. There are a lot of different strategies. Famous Yak.
It's one of the most fun fights in the category, or in the runs in general. Any category is watching how people handle the Barba fight.
If I have the magic left over to permit the shield and jump spells, I usually will go for the jackhammer. And again, it's the same as the jackhammer in previous moments in the game where it's used. A nice 2-cycle kill for Dan here.
Very nice.
It is possible to just get on top of Barba's hitbox and jackhammer him in 1 cycle, but it is risky because you're over the lava pit. With his lead, he takes the safe route and gets a nice 2-cycle kill, so probably the wiser move.
Bry's not getting a lot of luck here with the. Well, he finally gets it. Nice even distribution of the blocks in the room. Thanks for that game. Instead of giving him a bunch stacked up. Here's our last town and our last spell and our last pickup of the game. Across this bridge, we're going to get to the hidden town of Kasuto, the abandoned town of Kasuto, and picked up the Thunder Spell.
Once again, employing the safety strats here, using the fairy spell, get through that bridge room.
I believe he'll use fairy in all bridge encounters. There is a red jar on the way, just inside the Valley of Death.
And that red jar is a savior. Lest you're unfortunate enough to make a mistake in the forced encounter skip that I'm sure we'll see Dan go for here. If you do not pull off the skip correctly, there is a small chance that you can despawn the jar if you end up with a large encounter and you do not scroll the screen to the right. Jar will despawn once you enter the forced encounter that contains it.
And there's another fairy, and then there's one more bridge encounter. Coming up, he'll go directly up, and then to the left. And there you go.
So pretty safe strats. He'll be fine, full health most likely, as he enters the Valley of Death. And some runners will try to set up a road encounter here, see if he does, and he will, and he does.
Back spawn, I'm not too sure he was moving down enough. Nope, he was not.
Luckily, that was a small encounter, so he should still have the red jar, but then accidentally taking the forced encounter, it looks like he's just going to go ahead and plow on through. And this is a trolley Wilson screen, as everyone likes to call it, excuse me.
What did that start, by the way? We'll talk about it later.
Because of the oh, you see another thing here. I guess we can move on. The spell is useful in the Valley of Death because it can turn these enemies into relatively harmless bots. And at Magic 7, the cost to use spell is so low that that's probably the safest bet at this point.
24 MP. So it's 1.5 bars.
Well done, and now he'll go into the cave system here, and we'll meet an old friend in the next room.
Who likes to be stubborn certain times in the game.
Max, you just have to talk to Max in a nice soft tone, and he usually cooperates. See?
Look at that.
Well done by Dan. Didn't even have to use his spell. It was a good day.
Waits a few frames longer, and he's stuck on a never-ending pogo ride above him.
I've had that unfortunate incident happen many times, but well done by Dan. And now the last final cave with a couple of the Zalfos, and then he will be entering the Great Palace and the home stretch.
And there we go. Placed all the gems so the barrier does disappear.
So here is the biggest palace in the game, but very simple if you know the way to go. Left, right, right, left. And you'll see the first of the famous spicy chickens.
A little low on magic. Doesn't use fairy here to fly directly over him. He'll take a few hits. Probably saving that magic for something a little bit later that he might want to fairy over. Although fairy at 7 is 40, yeah, he may not have it. He doesn't. I don't think he has it.
If he's able to make it to the red jar room, which is coming up in a few screens, he will be in pretty good shape.
We are ready for this, yeah. So let's see what he's going to do. He's going to go down. He's going to go left.
Oh, no, is he going to do the alternate route?
I don't know. Or he's just going to try to buffer himself right into that wall. Doing some step aerobics, little Jane Fonda's workout. As the workout increases, you can add an additional step underneath for maximum results.
You have dance hits of the 80s in your playlist.
Oh, no, he fell. Where's he going to go? Oh, he went out of the palace. That is awesome. I've never seen that before. That is very well played.
I have to admit, I've never seen that either. Well done. I've never seen that before.
And there's the elevator. All the elevators are now borked. So I guess I don't know what he's got to do now.
I don't know either. I've never seen this glitch before.
This is awesome.
He going to have to death abuse?
He can't. I mean, he's got a death abuse somewhere, but he can't death abuse in the Great Palace because he can't get that barrier to spawn again. Now he's on top of the. Now every encounter, he's a little bit glitched out now.
See what he does here. This will be interesting. Maybe now the palace will be fixed now that he went into another cave, perhaps?
It's a very astute observation. And look at that. It is correct. Well done, Dan.
Good show, Dan. Putting on a show for the viewers, and a very neat glitch that I was not aware of. Pretty cool.
I was a little scared there, but you know, I had a little bit of confidence of knowing that Dan knew how to get out of it. But when he went into that other encounter and was on the ceiling, I'm like, uh-oh. How is he going to get out? How is he going to fix the elevator? He's going to have to go back to the Northern Palace. But
Brian taking on his own version of the fat douche and almost bites the dust, but is able to finish off the fight. And we'll be leaving Palace 5.
Sliver of Health deserves a drink.
Well played. And
so pretty much just rights and downs now in Great Palace until you arrive into that fairy room where you'll just go down again and start taking a left.
Dan has, I believe, 1 extra life remaining, if I'm not mistaken. So even if he takes a death here against Spicy Chicken, which he does, he should be okay. There's enough safeties in the Great Palace that with the lead he has, he can pretty much employ any strategy he wants.
Yeah, he does have 1 life left. There is a 1-up to be grabbed in the Great Palace if he wants to grab it, and a fairy refill. And plenty of red jars on the way.
So now we'll see if Brian decides to attempt the river dance as well as he does his levels up. And one thing we didn't mention, although neither runner really was in danger of it, is the potential to soft lock the game while you're leveling up. If you are frame perfect and leaving a screen with the level up occurring at the exact same moment, the game will actually soft lock. And considering that these runners have not saved their games, that would basically mean they would have to start over from the very beginning of the game.
Have you ever soft locked? I've never seen anybody do it in any practice. I'm sure a lot of people are self-aware about it now. But
I actually have. It usually happens in situations where you are overexperienced and you kill an enemy like a Mago, for example, at the edge of a screen, and it sets you up to level up as you go into the next screen. That's how it happened to me.
Okay.
I've seen runners do it leaving the gem, and I've also seen runners do it setting up for the river dance. So it is something to be aware of, although, again, neither of our runners had that issue. It is a potential trump card in these races. It could very easily change the outcome of a race.
Yeah, I've seen flash carts crash and consoles crash out in the randomizer tournament race, but I've never seen a soft lock. There's no real point where you can save a race here because you never get to that game over screen. Well, I guess unless you game over, but you'd have to. I don't know. You'd have to game over before you were able to save it, and so that's not an option for a lot of these people. So you don't have a plan B. You crash and you got to do everything over again. Soft lock.
So now we see Count Bicula trying his best to troll Dan, but Dan employing the safety strats here, and will be able to get through this room with full health and full magic. So he's in great shape for the remainder of this palace.
Yeah, stand on that 4th tile, crouch, and stab every time he jumps at you, and you'll take him down and not take any hits. And
not bad for Bry. Only 1 encounter in the forest, and he's on his way to New Kasuto, where he will also employ his 1 hammer deforesting technique. But no fire strats, so I'm just shaking my head. No, I'm just kidding.
Gotta make your way through this screen quickly before that chicken decides to jump on top of you as you start stabbing blocks down there. There is a jar here. He's gonna go through it. He's gonna grab the jar. He doesn't really necessarily need it, but he'll show us it's there. It's a chicken. Go
a
back
couple
down.
more spots where jars can pop up, although they are all 50-50 shots. He will get the quote-unquote fairy shame. And you have to be careful in this room, especially in a race. If it's a close race and you are, your heart's pounding and you're in a hurry. I've seen runners, luckily I've never done this, but I have seen runners accidentally downstab through those blocks into the lava, and one life remaining. That would have been catastrophic.
I've also got hit by a bot on the way to this 1-up and get knocked back into the lava, so it really pretty negated me getting the 1-up. You know, they start jumping left. You think they're going to jump off the platform, and they just make this right-hand turn and knock you down. Never fun.
This game has a way of picking the worst times to troll.
Yeah.
It happens.
There's an acronym for that, but I don't remember what it is, and I normally type it wrong, so.
It starts with a D, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's Don't Forget the Glove.
Shouts out to Rep, who made that saying very famous.
And Joshy D, who had the PG version of it, the Don't Forget the Glove. Because he didn't know what it meant. But we are.
So, Dan will not have the option to death abuse here. So, because he did use magic, although he does, he does have an extra man now, so he could.
But he might go for the jars here. It might show us that there are 2 jars when you go left here. The first one being in this stack of blocks right there, and he's got the chicken. The second one being in the third stack of blocks, the shorter one.
He's going to reset the room and try again. I've actually seen runners go over the blocks where that jar can appear and go for the second one first. I assume it's so it's easier to avoid the chicken if he does spawn. I'm not sure. I typically am.
You can do it twice in one screen. You go for the second one first, so that if it's a chicken, you go and then you stab the other block on your way out. Instead of just spawning the chicken, resetting the room, you can go for 2 attempts at one time.
So now he will go into final, and let's be honest, he's the final boss of the game. I mean, most part, that is Thunderbird. Although Dark Link is no pushover if your health is low.
So he casts the 2 important spells, Thunder and Fire.
And a pretty good Thunderbird fight so far. Is that a 3-cycle Thunderbird? Not bad.
Yeah, on his way back.
And of course, the obligatory fire strats. So thank you, Dan. You've made my day, and I give your run a 10 out of 10.
You give him a hard time for not using fire at all. Hey, if you want to take this time to apologize, 300 words or less to him.
No, of course I'm kidding. I mean, fire is useless, although
little known fact,
it is a lot of fun.
You hit that key 100 times with fire, and Ganon will spawn in the next room. Let's see if you did it.
Is that like the Mew is under the truck glitch in Pokemon?
It's like, yeah, and like how do you get pizza pasta to appear in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? Everyone had an uncle in school that gave you a code and it never worked. Yeah, kind of thing. But
so with full magic full life here, it should be pretty much symbolic. Although he is fighting him with the pretty ballsy strats here.
Yeah, burrowing up.
Props. But no fire, though.
Oh, he can't afford it.
Yeah, it's okay. He used fire against Thunderbird, so I'll give him some slack.
I don't think he has the death abuse here, just so he has the magic to appease you. Coming at him with the jump slashes down on his face. This is always so bad, man. I hated this fight as a kid.
I wish I had known that just stand in the corner. I actually did not know that until the Angry Video Game Nerd made his video about this game.
And there he goes.
There it is. And Dan is going to win his race tonight. Well done, sir. With a lot of swag and a lot of showmanship. Gave us a great show. And his final time, I'm trying to look it up on SRL, but I'm going to go ahead and just type it in based off his splits.
We see Bry is now at the first of the Rebo fights in Palace 6. He'll pick up the cross.
Really well played by Dan. Had a great early game, and with the big lead was able to show a lot of showmanship throughout his run and showcasing a lot of cool stuff for the viewers. Let's see if we can't get Dan in the Discord to get some comments from him.
Yeah, hopefully somebody learned from where the jar locations are and stuff like that, and little tricks. I love that elevator glitch trick in Great Palace. I'd never even seen that before.
That was really neat. It was something I'd never seen before either, and just in general, just showing us different locations that Link can speak to player, and just a lot of fun to watch the run. And do not let his finishing time fool you. The start he had, that could have been a great run time-wise. And
put this in perspective. He went sub 92, I guess, very casually with all that time spent showing us the elevator stuff and backtracking to the 1-up and taking the ferry and going for the jars. I mean, this was a very good run, and he did all that stuff as well.
Yeah, really, really fun run to watch. See if Dan joins us in the Discord for some post-race interviewing, as we see Brian making his way through Palace 6. Just got the cross item and is going to make his way down to go for Barba. And I believe he has just joined us, Dan. Congratulations on your win, sir.
If you can hear me.
We do, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Congratulations.
Hey, well, Svenna, that wasn't a very good time, but I had some fun.
Oh, well, you did a lot of stuff.
Of
Yeah, you did a lot of stuff to deviate from making that a something you time. But where did you learn that elevator glitch?
Probably about 10 years ago on Game FAQs.
Oh, really?
I heard about that and I tested it out, and it works both on, I'm sure it works on every system, but now I do it on the Wii VC whenever I don't have a chance at a PB. And then only about a year ago I discovered that if you fall down the elevator and walk into that cave, you wind up on the ceiling. And then there are mystery invisible enemies up there.
Oh, there's even enemies up there, huh?
Yeah, that Red the Zalfo, I think, wraps up there and actually starts hitting you.
Oh, God.
But yes, when I was trying to hype up this race, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. I'm unable to hear Dan, but I do want to let Dan know that was a lot of fun to watch that glitch, and really nice showcase. I do apologize.
James, restart Discord.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Sorry, Discord.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing to do.
There we go.
There you go. Now you can ask your questions.
Really well done. I didn't get to hear his response to your question, Larry, but really well done, man. And
if he's talking right now, I can't hear him now.
That's.
I can hear you, Larry.
It's technology. I got to be the English to English translator here. I'm not used to this. I normally do the Swedish to English translation on streams, but no, he's just basically saying he didn't hear your answer to my question about the elevator, but very much well done on the race. Was there any part of this race that I asked you this last time as well? Anything you didn't handle particularly well before you started doing the swag stuff that you really wanted to work on for next race?
Had all sorts of random walks that were just complete BS throughout the race. I mean, I can't even count how many there were. I made the one mistake coming out. I had no encounters to Bagu, and then instead of going right and down, I just went straight down.
Yeah,
which was just straight up dumb. I don't know if I've ever done that before, but it's one of the things that I really didn't do well.
Yeah, perfect to there.
Other areas, a boulder dash I set up just fine, and I walk, hit the tile of grass where 2 encounters spawn, and then 1 random walk later, I have a swamp encounter. Which was complete garbage. But I mean, there were stuff like that all over the run that I just kind of powered through. And
Yeah, you didn't get too lucky to New Casuto either. Taking the encounter in the forest areas, they weren't favorable to you there. But all in all, still very, very well done. Your next race is tomorrow against Sven, I believe. Did you guys finalize the time for that?
it's Wednesday against Venna.
It's Sven. Okay.
In the morning. I think it's at about 9 Eastern or so.
Okay, that was
Wednesday,
not changed on the schedule.
I think he wanted to do it that day because he's got a slot on
that's right.
Gaming Live TV.
Yes, I remember him saying that when we did your race earlier in the week. Yeah.
So that's my next one, and then Cantaloupe Thursday or Friday next week. Not exactly sure when for that one.
Oh, I'm looking at Bry. Bry's racing him tomorrow. My bad, not you. It's kind of bleeding in onto the same line. Looking at all these names that are very similar, and just the whole rotation of everyone playing everybody. But yeah, no, very well done, and best of luck to you.
I don't know if you can hear me, Dan, but GG, sir, and great game, man. And it was a lot of fun to watch.
James said, I don't know if you can hear me, sir, but GG, and well done. And he's out of the channel. So hopefully he hears it on the restream. The Discord gets a little bit finicky. Sometimes you have to restart, and to hear somebody, it's very, very unfortunate. Bry's going for the encounter skip here.
And since he was unable to get it, we'll have to see if it despawns the jar. It should not, because we'll have to wait and see. And it does not. Yeah, he didn't take a large encounter there, so it shouldn't have been a problem. But he's now headed to Great Death Valley. I almost called it Great Valley. What is this, Land Before Time?
I wanted to ask Dan about the whole, what are you and Bry going to do post race here? But the whole Discord thing threw me off.
Yeah, I blame Windows 10. Really bad technology day for me today. I did get my 32X to work, though. That was kind of cool.
Oh, there you go. By the way, get the other version of OBS when you want to restream these, because you can just snap right in the layout. Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. This one doesn't have a prepackaged layout. You had to create everything yourself on the images. My bad. But it's easier.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, it's easier to crop and easier to manipulate the windows, the screen captures, window captures, with the other version.
I'll have to definitely look into it, and I do apologize to all the viewers once again that I did have some technical difficulties on my end. This was a little bit of a short notice thing. I was just best I could to help, and then when I had the technical difficulties, Larry was able to step in, and I want to thank you very much, Larry, for not only saving my bacon, but allowing these two racers to have their race streamed. And I think everybody in this tournament should have that opportunity, and it's good that you were able to do that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that with so many races that a handful of them are going to go unstreamed. But if I am available, I will. If I can guarantee myself the time, I'll definitely throw my name in the hat and help out restreaming where I can. Sure. If you ever need me for the future, even if it's just to restream and you and somebody else are going to call the race, I'm very much happy to help you guys.
Max was not as kind to Brian as he was to Dan in his walk to Great Palace, and now he's on the last stretch before he'll make his final approach.
And he has to be careful because he doesn't have enough magic for spell, and he's very low on life here. I don't know what his lives situation is.
I was about to mention that if he's got a low life count, he can get into the Great Palace and intentionally take a game over.
This is his last life, and he did game over.
Oh no. Oh no. That's rough.
Now, we have to mention that even though he did lose, he can't really forfeit here because the tiebreaker is completing races as well as...
And I don't believe anyone has forfeited yet. And that would be a tremendous blow if you did forfeit, if you ended up in a tie with somebody. But finishing strong, not only for the tiebreaker, but for the viewers, is the right thing to do. Props to Brian for sticking it out.
Yeah, I always like to see the runners stick it out. There's also the added little bit of practice in doing the Great Palace and doing the walk from Valley of Death that he can do here now at the same time as completing the race. So what I don't understand sometimes is watching you guys reset, is you guys are always going for your PB and getting to a certain point. It just seems like you never get the practice later on in the run past a certain point if your times are not there for you. How do you guys manage that, practicing later on in the race if you're always resetting for PB goals?
I can't speak for other runners. I know every runner has different mentalities when it comes to that. A lot of streamers will finish runs no matter what, and obviously that's good, both the viewer and for them to get practice. Personally, when I am going for PBs, the reason I reset a lot is I actually get a lot of offline practice. I make it a point to practice games that I'm currently running offline. And I mean, of course, in a run, it's always a different scenario. You never know what's going to happen in a run compared to practice. But games like Zelda 2, I feel like there's less RNG than games like Zelda 1, where situations change so much in a Zelda 1 run that you're better off running runs through that game because things can change so dramatically. Zelda 2, for the most part, if you have the right levels, the right experience points, and you perform the strategies correctly, for the most part, you're going to have a result you're going to be somewhat happy with. I mean, the only real thing is the encounters, and even that can be mitigated a lot of the time. So I guess it really just comes down to the runner himself or herself and what they want to do, whether or not they're just so stubborn that they want to finish their run or not. You know, it just really depends on the person.
No jar.
Now that's interesting. He did not take an encounter there, did he?
No, he was good through that area. He took he did not take an encounter.
I honestly couldn't tell you why that happens because I've been fortunate for the most part. I've never actually taken a game over on the way to Great Palace, and it's possible that once you get that red jar, it doesn't respawn. I was under the impression that they do, so I don't know.
On a game over, I was under the impression that pretty much most things do respawn, but maybe not. Or maybe the game over is one of those things where it's like not scrolling the screen on a large encounter or a hard encounter. There are other things that can make it despawn as well. Somebody with better knowledge would have to explain that to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I know that the overwriting of a very specific value in memory is the reason the jar despawns, correct?
I believe that's what it's been explained to me as the reason why it does that, yes.
So perhaps he had an encounter on the way here? Maybe that's why? I honestly, I'll have to watch it again.
It had to be somebody who drills into memory, who knows specifically what it is. Otherwise, I'd just be like guessing and just saying that, you know, maybe an encounter later on in the Valley of Death he created something where the memory didn't make that jar appear after the game over. I don't know at that point.
I'll have to, maybe Unos will probably know the answer to that, or possibly another runner. I'll have to ask somebody and see if they can't teach me a little. And to be honest, my first time commenting on a race, it's really a different monster on this side of the seat. It's a lot more fun, and you get to learn a lot because you're looking at every little detail of each person's individual run. It's actually I've learned a lot just watching these two gentlemen race today.
Highlander says that not all there are multiple ways to despawn a jar, and not all are known, mostly known.
Okay. Well, that's something we'll have to look into in the future. I'm sure there's ways to do that with ROMs and emulators and looking at the different values. Well, now with 2 lives, he should be okay to make it to Great Palace. Although he'll be entering Great Palace with 8, 7, and 6. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him utilize a intentional game over here. but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, you might as well. You're down to life already, and the rules call for it. You can do it, and to do that, you got to open this barrier. Now the barrier is gone, but if you go down the elevator and come back up, the barrier will reappear and not disappear. So you basically just jump into it for an instant death. But again, well, he is gonna do that. But then again, if you do game over in the Great Palace, it's not. I thought the barrier would be there for you to jump into. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just later on.
So I believe he has 1 extra life remaining, so he'll have to do this one more time,
Yeah.
and then he'll be able to go through the Great Palace with his full 3 live stock.
Yeah, and if you game over in Great Palace, you start at Great Palace. So, I believe he was telling you were number 1, James.
I believe he was.
Yeah, I believe that was right to you, right directed to you.
Might be. I don't know. I probably deserve it.
But here we go, Great Palace. So there is an alternate path here, James. Do you know it?
I do not.
Okay.
And I saw, I believe it was Error that did it during the relay race. That was the first time I'd actually ever seen it. And I'm still relatively new to Zelda 2 speedruns. I learned the game a couple months ago, and there's still so much about this game that I'm learning, even just watching these guys run today. And never actually done the alternate route.
I believe Enchantress talks about it sometimes, and Link 7s talk about it sometimes as well, but I've never seen it done. And I believe they talk about doing it just for, or at least on Link 7's side, it's just a different path to take, just break the norm. Does it include doing a Eco Key like jump onto a roof from the, I don't even know how to explain it, but the top half of the screen where you normally break the bricks and fall through the bottom of the floor to get when you're closer to Thunderbird? I don't know how to explain that screen, the split screen.
Yeah, the screen with 2 different paths, one on top, one on the bottom.
Yeah.
In Nelly game, the path on the top is a red herring that takes you to a really difficult maze part of the palace that complete dead end. I'm not sure how to implement it, but I do believe it's similar to Eco Key. I don't know if somebody in the chat.
You take the damage boost onto the ceiling. Alternate route jump is much easier than Eco Key. Thanks, Jack. But it does. The alternate route does include that skip. Is what I was. It looks like it does. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you bounce, not damage. Okay, so it's just a down stab, elevator, pogo ride, up and over. Okay, I have to see somebody do that one day because I've only heard about it talked about, and never seen it at least once. Gonna look for the jar here. Got it. And it's safer. It's a little bit longer though, right? Something like that, or it has a potential to be a lot longer if you mess up the skip. I forget.
I wish I knew more about it to be.
Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it done. I'm gonna look around on some videos and see if I can find it. As Bryce stares into your soul.
Dealing with Scott Bukula here, just trying to make it through, and gets through the room now. Thanks to safety strats, he'll be fine. He has plenty of life and plenty of magic, and will start making his way towards the final stretch of the Great Palace.
Okay, cool, Jack. I'm gonna have to watch that then.
He says it is safer and easier, less of the spicy chickens. You had me at less spicy chickens. And it saves 3 seconds, apparently, according to Dark Magician. Something I will definitely need to look into. Have you, you've seen it live before, right, Larry?
No, I have not. I haven't even seen it done yet. I've only heard about, talked about. And I've never seen it. I've seen people take alternate paths to Thunderbird and Dark Link, but it's like, your PB's gone, you're just going to take a different direction, is all. It wasn't anything like, we save more time doing it this way. It's like, let's just look at these other rooms in the Great Palace. We never see them.
dealing with the final Foca here and just trying to get through, utilizing upstab strats, trying to kill him. And now he's just going to make a run for it. Get through.
Oh, that last sword beam through the wall. That shouldn't exist. Swords don't go through walls.
Tough break. He still has 2 lives, so
Yeah.
he should be okay. This is a trolley room. I've actually lost runs in this before, and with life 6, that's the risk you take, which is one of the reasons I do not like 886 strats personally. One stray beam can really put a hurting on your run.
He's going to go for the 1-up. Make sure you land the jump. Make sure you don't short jump. Oh, good stuff. Oh.
He seems like he's a little frustrated.
Or he's really into the song he's listening to. And there's the short jump right into the lava. Almost pogoed himself right back into the lava. Just would have been unfortunate, but he saved it.
It'll be interesting to see if he decides to join the Discord here. I'm curious to see what's going through his mind at the moment.
Yeah, if he's so passionately fired up right now, you can ask the questions. And I'll just agree with him and then side against you if you ask anything incorrectly. He's pausing here for a second. I think he's typing to his chat. Maybe not.
I believe he's talking to us, actually.
Oh, is he? I don't see it. Is it in IRC?
It's in our chat.
Oh. We have a chat?
I imagine. Dan, I do imagine.
He gets bounced backwards into the lava. 1 life left. He's just got to make it down the screen, and then he could make his way to the boss. He's got full magic now. Doesn't need to look for the jars. He can just go right. And here is Thunderbird.
The Magic 7, he will not be able to use Reflect here, so he'll be using Thunder and then possibly Shield or Jump. It looks like he's going to use Shield and Jump.
Yeah, Thunder goes down from the cost of 100 MP at Magic 7 to 64 at Magic 8. Dan's
Deploying
informed.
the pendulum strats.
Dan's informing Bri that he's asked if we asked if he'll join the chat, and on his BF he said he'd love to. Dan said.
Be interesting to see what he thinks of his run.
There you go. Now
As he
you
takes care of Thunderbird, and now he is toasting his stream.
He's gonna grab the jar now, get the magic, get life. You're on your last life. You got to be a little bit careful here. It's the easy thing to do. Gotta get rid of these chickens though. Hopefully he doesn't get a couple in a row and he can just get to the jar. I think liquor is guaranteed strat for most people when they play Z2.
Usually the liquor starts for me after I take an unintentional lava bath somewhere in Palace 4 or something.
For most people it starts when you put the cartridge into the system. And we got a jar, thankfully.
So DFTG stands for drink for this game, I believe.
Wow, there you go. There's another one.
Well, now with a little bit of a life buffer and some extra magic, he should have no problem dispatching Dark Link and finishing his run. Oh no, that's a terrible Dark Vision. That's one reason I don't really mess with the randomizer. I've seen you and other people run it, Larry, and it just seems very, very frustrating.
That seed was miserable.
It'd be fun to play casually, but I don't think I'll ever race it. It just seems like a very, very patience-trying thing to do. I mean, props to Dig shit for
Dig what?
Excuse me. Props to Dig Shake for making. But I kind of lost the ability to speak there. I apologize.
He just soft-locked the game.
Nice. The fairy ending. Well done.
Oh, no ending. He's got to go through it again.
Oh, you're. Is that correct?
I believe that's soft-locked. I think yeah.
Interesting.
That's an absolute soft lock. That's a it's an end of the game right there. So in situations like this, you can't even up A save, right? Because hitting up A definitely disqualifies you from doing it.
Yeah, I think you might be correct, Larry. That is very unfortunate. Does that mean he's going to have to forfeit, or is he going to attempt to run the game again? And I believe Brian has joined us in the Discord. How are you doing tonight, Brian?
Nailed it.
That was a beautiful fairy strat.
You know what?
What's up?
I'll take that.
The old jump fairy soft lock ending.
Yeah, absolutely. 12 hours to facing Sven, and I am, a little bit inebriated. So it's not good. It's not good.
Some people rely on the drunken strats to play this game, though. So
No.
you might be at a.
That's open golf. I will play that drunk. This game, drunk, is a horrible idea. I started drinking 7 hours ago.
Oh man, you're well
And
into
Dan
it.
knew that, and that's why he slow rolled it, because he knew that I was not in a good shape.
He was promoting this race since Wednesday as being being very special. Did he get you to drink early, or did
No, absolutely. That's the alcoholic in Mr. Brisulph. Absolutely.
Okay.
You boys want to watch a band play golf drunk? You drop by me. Zelda 2? Not a good scene! Not a good scene, boys. I soft locked that. So, do I have to restart this to actually get an official time, or do I just take 3 hours?
I think the tournament rules say you have to finish the game, but I'm not the authority on that. So
You know what? I'm going to take the 3 hours, and I'm going to go to sleep. That's the plan. That's the plan, boys, because my work laptop is right here, and my empty wine glass is right there. I've got about a third of Canadian rye whiskey, and I've got about a third of Scotch whiskey right here, and it's not happening. So, boys, thank you very much for putting up with my stupidity. I appreciate you pretending that this was serious, and I thank both of you.
Dan's here. I think Dan has a couple questions for you.
Dan H, fuck you. No question. Fuck you. I was keeping the swears to a minimum, and then Dan showed up. So, boys, no. Dan gets no questions. No questions.
I'm sorry, Dan. I tried.
Tapatio, Bag, you guys get questions. I'll go to the heavy weapons crew. Heavy weapons crew. If you're not if you're not following Tapatio J or Bag the T, you're doing yourself a great service. They're wonderful people, and they run delicious games. Now that said, Dan, questions, go.
Well, I was just gonna say, since you soft locked, and this race isn't exactly official, we can do the tiebreaker on Super Black Bass tomorrow after your race with Svenna.
Daniel, I understand you went out there and masturbated for the first 30 minutes, but seriously, you won the race. Take your W. Take your goddamn Chicago Cubs W and move on, all right? You concentrate.
Screw the Cubs. I'm a Twins fan. We lose 100 games a year.
Dan, you concentrate and you take on Svenny and you fight him with an inch of your life. I'm going to lose all 4 matches. I'm going to lose to Svenny tomorrow morning, less than 12 hours from now. You do your job, okay? The two of you butt heads, you butt asses, you do what you got to do. You win that, and you move on to the knockout stages. You got that, Dan? No.
Thanks for the encouragement, I think.
No. You got that? You win. You win, or I will seriously be slightly disappointed in you.
Slightly, okay.
No.
Well.
You guys are pretty. You guys are pretty even. You did a 132 because you knew I was drunk off my ass, and you knew that I was not playing seriously at all. So you do your job. You face him in a legit match. Now, when are you guys facing off?
Wednesday. You know,
Wednesday.
and
Guys,
I made sure to
guys.
stop and point out every single time Link talked to himself during this race. So,
Guys, I want to point out Dan is facing Svenny on Wednesday. What time?
9 a.m. Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern. Is it Eastern or is we
Lord.
talking Central?
Eastern.
Eastern.
And I think
Okay,
it's going to
so
be
we're talking
on
about
Retro Gaming Live.
9 Eastern, 10 Central, 11 Western, 3 European. You boys, go check that out. This is for second place in this particular group. Group
Hey,
F.
what the hell are you talking about? I can take on Cantaloupe. I've beat him in races before.
That's funny. That's funny. That
Seriously.
you think, that's funny. You think you can beat a guy that's can out fat me? That's funny.
Last time
That guy will
last
jerk
time
off
we
in your
raced
face. So
Cantaloupe,
no. That guy will jerk off in your face and rape your mouth. So beat Svenny and take care of business. Dan.
last time I raced
No.
Cantaloupe, it
No.
was
Dan.
Rove
No,
1.
no.
John Wayne took
Stop.
second, I took third, Cantaloupe
Stop.
took fourth. So
My wife
I can
is
take
home.
him.
I
He's
can
way
yell
better
as
than
loud
me,
as
but I can
want.
take him.
My wife is a goddamn 3 kilometers away. So you will beat Svenny. You will beat that Swedish piece of wonderful human being.
So
Into
JSR
No!
and Angry Larry,
Stop!
do you have anything to add to this?
It was a
I
very
think this
entertaining
is
race,
pretty
gentlemen. It was very entertaining.
Popcorn has 30 seconds left, boys. Keep it going.
The point
30
is-
seconds.
The point is that Dan is going to beat Svenny. He's going to win second legit. He will not need tiebreaker time stuff because tonight he fucked around when he should have been banking points. He's going to beat Svenny straight up. He's going to tell that man, says, I'm better than you. Here it is. And he's going to say, I'm from Minnesota. We don't like Donald Trump.
'Cause
Even though we
that's
voted for him.
Anders.
Fuck you! We're fucking you, you sweetest bitch! Moving on to the knockout stages. Dan H! That's it. Got it.
I was promised something special. Dan, I didn't know you, but you have delivered. And and Bri, you as well.
This was not
Back up.
planned at all.
Dan delivered? Dan delivered?
No. It was no. Let's make this short. Let's make this. No. Bri delivered. Dan promised. So let me correct myself when I said that.
Brisulph. Brisulph. Brisulph delivered.
There you go.
Fuck all y'all.
Brisulph.
It's Brisulph. Fuck all y'all. I love you. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Less than 2 hours from now.
Good luck.
Teach Benny a fucking lesson.
Good
in
luck.
How to beat you by 10 minutes.
Good luck tomorrow.
Good luck tomorrow, Brian.
The
Thank you
only
very
thing
much.
I promised was elevator shenanigans, not this.
Oh, is that all you promised? I was under the impression it was going to be you two talking in Discord,
no,
pretty much like
boys,
this for an hour and a half.
This was excellent right here.
Boys,
was-
I love me a Dan H. Super black bass. Me and him racing Lake 1 at a GDQ. Make it happen. Tell those motherfuckers this shit has to happen. Make
Will
it
never
happen.
happen.
Boys. Make it happen. Glenn Fittich. Good night.
Have a good night, man.
Thanks, guys.
Well,
Thank you very much for that. By the way, Bry is playing Svenny tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, in case you didn't catch that.
It's gonna be delicious how hungover I am. It's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna live by 35 or 8 minutes, one or the other.
And Dan
Angry
is
Larry?
yeah.
Angry Larry, and who is JR? Thank you
Uh,
very much for pretending that I pretended to give a shit about this.
thank you for letting us do
Brothers.
it.
Thank you.
Peace,
No,
brothers.
no regrets. Take care, man.
Good one, man.
Good luck tomorrow. And Dan
night.
is playing Svenny as well, as we mentioned, Wednesday, the 16th. That is going to be on twitch.tv/retro gaming live TV, all one word. So,
Oh, a real stream. That's interesting. That's interesting.
yeah, not this mom and pop operation I'm running.
Hey! Wow, this mom and pop operation got me half sprung. So good to go, boys.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
speaking of
All night
entertainment,
long.
I give you Brisulph.
I didn't even have to ask
Oh
him. a
man,
question.
that was pretty awesome.
There was nothing I could have asked him that would have given the entertainment value of what we just witnessed. That was awesome. And
I'm actually curious to play this fishing game now.
Dan, can you hear me
Super
now?
Black Bass,
Yeah.
Super Nintendo game. It's fairly boring. I play it probably about once a week, once every 2 weeks or so on my stream, just because it's a gimmick. I don't know.
And you can follow both runners. I have their links in chat. Dan is Dan _ two of them, H. Make sure you put that second underscore in for savings, I guess. I don't know. But there they are again.
Brisulph in twitch.tv/BRI.
And I still can't hear JSR. So
You're not missing much.
he's chatting away, and I have no idea what he's saying. That's always a good thing.
No, he's plugging your streams. That's all he's doing. But thanks again, and we good luck to you again on Wednesday, and in all your future fishing endeavors.
All right, thank you. Ice fishing's coming up. It's
Nice.
not going to be streamed, but
Aw, man. But I guess IRL
yes,
Nice.
indeed.
on that Minnesota pond and lake. So good race, huh, James?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch, especially the post interview. Oh, seriously,
Best post interview I think ever. We nailed it.
I didn't even have to say anything. They did all the heavy lifting for me.
I'm actually lucky I
it was
didn't have this.
amazing.
Yeah, I was actually a little uncomfortable going into that, about to ask a question, but Bri popped in, man, and he just nailed it. So I didn't have to ask him a single thing.
And it was a very entertaining race to watch, if not for the technical reasons that we're used to seeing in these tournament races, at least for the different parts of the game that we were shown by Dan, and the awesome swag ending by Bri there. And there will be plenty more races coming up. Make sure you go to Challenge, that is Challenge with an O, CHALLONGE.com/2016 Zelda 2. See the upcoming schedule for the races, the current standings in each of the groups, and a lot more. And props to you, Mr. Larry, sir, for not only saving my butt today, but putting on a great show and helping out with the tournament. It's awesome of you to help support the community, man. I just want to thank you.
Oh, no problem, man. I love this game. I love watching it run, and I'm very much interested in this tournament, and there'll be more Zelda 2 races restreamed both on this channel and your channel as well. Make sure you give James a follow. It's twitch.tv/2gamers1nerd. Those are with numerals, 2gamers1nerd. All alternate personalities of him. They're not other people. We have yet to figure that out, but and also the runners. And again, the link to the official page has been posted in chat, so make sure you check that out. Look at the schedule, look for more races. There are races tomorrow. There are pretty much races almost every day of the week up until the 25th, so make sure you check them out. And James, thanks a lot for joining me, man, and thanks for the lookout when looking for somebody else to do this with.
Not a problem, man. It was a lot of fun, and look forward to the next time, man. And to all the ones watching at your channel, everyone that saw the race, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll be back soon, and more stuff on each of our individual channels probably tonight. So take care.
Everyone have a great night.